Imagine getting everything you've ever wanted, but at a cost that is truly unimaginable. Today, we're diving into a story of ambition, family ties, and a series of tragic events that left the community stunned. This is the story of a man whose desire for a lavish lifestyle led him down a dark and destructive path, earning him the chilling nickname, the Inheritance Killer. Our story begins in McHenry County, Illinois, a place known for its quiet, rural charm. It was here that Charles Michael Albanese lived, a man who, on the surface, seemed to have it all. He was a successful businessman, a family man, and a respected member of his community. He ran a successful trophy-making company, a business that had been in his family for years. From the outside, his life looked like the American dream. He enjoyed expensive cars, luxurious vacations, and the finer things in life. But behind this polished facade, a different story was unfolding. Business, while seemingly successful, was struggling. Charles was living far beyond his means, accumulating significant debt to maintain his high-flying lifestyle. The pressure was mounting, and he began to see his own family, not as loved ones, but as obstacles and opportunities. In the spring of 1980, a series of mysterious illnesses began to plague the Albanese family. It started with Charles's father, Michael Albanese Sr., a robust, healthy man. He suddenly fell gravely ill with symptoms that baffled doctors: nausea, weakness, and debilitating pain. His condition deteriorated rapidly, and despite the best efforts of medical professionals, he passed away in May 1980. His death was officially attributed to a heart attack, a plausible cause for a man his age. The family mourned, and life, it seemed, would go on. But this was only the beginning. Shortly after his father's death, Charles's mother, Virginia, also began to experience similar, frightening symptoms. Her health declined in a way that was eerily reminiscent of her late husband's. At the same time, another family member, her mother Marian Muller, who lived in a nearby town, also fell mysteriously ill. The once vibrant matriarchs of the family were now weak and suffering, their ailments a perplexing puzzle to their doctors. As their conditions worsened, they were hospitalized. Tragedy struck again in August 1980 when Marian Muller passed away. Just days later, Virginia Albanese also succumbed to her illness. Within a few short months, Charles had lost his father, his grandmother, and his mother. The community sympathized with him, seeing him as a man struck by an unbelievable string of bad luck and heartbreak. But for some, the pattern was too strange to ignore. 3 healthy family members, all falling ill and passing away in a similar manner within a few months. It felt like more than just a tragic coincidence. One person who couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong was Charles's. He began to suspect that these weren't natural deaths at all. His suspicions led him to voice his concerns to the authorities. He suggested that investigators take a closer look at the circumstances surrounding these deaths, and specifically, to look closer at Charles Albanese. This crucial tip prompted investigators to exhume the bodies of Michael Sr., Virginia, and Marian. What the toxicologists found was shocking. It wasn't heart failure or old age that had claimed their lives. The tests revealed lethal doses of arsenic in all 3 victims. Arsenic is a potent, tasteless, and odorless poison, making it difficult to detect when administered in small, repeated doses. Its symptoms can mimic those of natural gastrointestinal illnesses, which is exactly what had happened. The doctors had been treating what they thought were common ailments, never suspecting the sinister truth. The cause of death was no longer a mystery. It was murder. With the confirmation of poisoning, the investigation immediately focused on who could have administered the arsenic. The spotlight turned squarely on Charles Albanese. Investigators began digging into his life, his finances, and his recent activities. They discovered his mounting debts and his extravagant spending habits. And then they found the motive: inheritance. Charles was a primary beneficiary of his parents' and grandmother's estates. With their deaths, he stood to inherit a significant amount of money that could solve all of his financial problems and fund the luxurious lifestyle he craved. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. The search for evidence led investigators to the Albanese family business, the trophy company. There, they made a startling discovery. They found receipts for purchases of arsenic. The company used the chemical in small quantities for the plating process in making trophies. This was the smoking gun. Charles had access to the very poison that was used to commit the murders. He had the means, he had the opportunity, and he had a powerful motive. The case against him was building rapidly. Investigators also uncovered another chilling detail. It wasn't just his parents and grandmother who were targeted. It was found that Charles had also attempted to poison his own brother, Michael Jr., during a family lunch. He had offered his brother a soft drink, which Michael Jr. luckily didn't finish, complaining that it tasted bitter. This small act of fate likely saved his life. Later analysis of evidence related to that lunch would confirm the presence of arsenic. It became clear that Charles' plan was to eliminate any family member who stood between him and the inheritance money he so desperately wanted. In November 1981, Charles Michael Albanese was arrested and charged with the murders of his father, mother, and grandmother, as well as the attempted murder of his brother. The subsequent trial was a media sensation. The prosecution laid out a compelling case, presenting the financial motive, the evidence of the arsenic purchases, and the testimony of family members and experts. They painted a picture of a cold, calculating man who valued money and material possessions more than the lives of his own family. The defense tried to argue that the arsenic was for business purposes only, and that someone else could have been responsible, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury was convinced. In 1982, Charles Albanese was found guilty. He was convicted of the murders and the attempted murder. The judge, calling his crimes cold-blooded and heinous, sentenced him to death. He spent years on death row, maintaining his innocence and appealing his conviction, but his appeals were consistently denied. The man who became known as the inheritance killer had his story come to a final close in September 1995, when he was executed for his crimes. The case of Charles Albanese is a disturbing reminder of how greed can corrupt and destroy. He methodically and patiently poisoned his own family, one by one, all for financial gain. It as a story about the ultimate betrayal of trust and the dark side of human nature that can hide behind a seemingly normal and successful life. It serves as a chilling example of how the desire for wealth can lead someone to commit the most unthinkable acts against the very people they should have loved and protected. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into this truly unsettling case. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.